Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a great day. You're listening to or watching this episode of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. The podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. Today, we have Chris Yano with Yano Strategic Solutions. And what is Yano? Who is Yano? What do they do? If you're in the HVAC industry, you've probably heard of Yano. You may not know a lot about Yano, though. So that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation. And if you have any questions, first off, don't hesitate to reach out to Chris and his team at Yano. They do an amazing job, and they are always super open about answering questions to help out you as a contractor. So with that being said, welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of a tidbit of information behind the scenes, if you will. We're not just now going live. We've been live already in one of our Facebook groups. But so if you're watching this live on, I think it's on my personal page now, feel free to comment and ask any questions along the way. We'll get them answered. If for some reason you don't get your question answered right now, reach out to Chris and his team. Chris, what's the best place for them to reach out to?
I would say just, you can either go to the website at rynoss.com, which is rynoss.com, or you can, our Facebook page, email is info@rynoss.com. Like, I'm pretty easy to get in touch with.
Sweet. Cool. Well, with that being said, welcome to the show, Chris. And what is Yano and what do y'all do?
Yeah, sure. So one, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of for those who maybe be on here, we also have a podcast, to the Point Home Services podcast. But man, like I actually leaned on Tersh a lot when we were starting that thing. So and it's been wildly successful last year. But I appreciate you helping me out in the beginning with that, dude. You know how much I care about that. So thanks.
It's my pleasure.
So Yano Strategic Solutions is a internet marketing company specifically for the trades. It's been that way the last 13 years. So really HVAC, plumbing, electrical are the majority of our customers, but we only do digital marketing. So pay-per-click, SEO, websites, social, chat. The biggest thing that I think what I'm most proud of is that we've only done that for the trades. So basically, dude, we're like eat, live, and breathe. It made us an essential business. I'll tell you what, I was grateful for that. We're now recession-proof and pandemic-proof. I love that.
True.
So that's it. Really, the biggest objective that we have is people are paying us to, I say, yes, it's digital marketing as a service we provide, but it's to grow their business. And our kind of slogan, if you will, is we exist to grow your business, period. And we live by that.
So what's the benefit of doing it just digital and not like paper or print or any of that stuff? Like what made you decide that and like why?
Okay, so here's the nerd answer.
Okay.
It was just accountability. With digital, it was easier to know exactly how we were doing. Mm-hmm. And there's a level of accountability to that was certainly helpful. But I also have ADHD. So like I had to focus on one thing that I was really good at. And so it was just digital. I learned search engine optimization back in 2004. So which is like forever ago.
Yeah.
And started learning how to build websites and things like that. Now, the way I saw it is, I didn't mean to get into heating and air conditioning, which is kind of the first, trade I got into. It's just, I kind of got sucked into it because my biggest customer was a HVAC and plumbing company out of Indianapolis. And, but here's what happened is that if I just focused on HVAC and plumbing at that point in time, then my thought was, if I'm doing it every day, I'm going to get really good at it. So I should be able to start bringing in, because really every customer wants the most amount of leads for the least amount of money. Like that's never changed in 13 years I've been doing this. Mm-hmm. So if I only stayed in my lane and focused on digital, and I could look at analytics and data and measure, okay, I spend this on this service campaign, and I can bring in X amount of service leads for X cost per lead in this market with the weather at 80 degrees versus 70 degrees versus 60 degrees. I could just nerd out on the data and figure out how can I run these campaigns effectively. So I didn't have enough bandwidth to do any other service, industries outside of that. So I thought if I just focus on the trades, the only thing I can do is all I have to do is chase the technology. And that made me become accidentally a key player in like an OG in internet marketing for the trades.
So that is really cool though, because whenever you think, so back probably, what year? Maybe 2014. when I started my other HVAC company, HVAC plumbing electrical company, I really was searching for, okay, so I wanted a website, but the problem that I had was like all the research. I mean, first thing you do, get on YouTube, look up what you got to get, what you got to do, and all this other stuff. Nobody was really there for the trades, and so like I'm like looking at restaurant stuff, but then they get into like menus and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I don't really need that stuff. So like but I could maybe turn that over for service parts or service repairs, maybe, I don't know. But it's back then, I know I just couldn't find anybody that was specifically for the trades, other than probably like one plumber guy. But that it was such a pain point for me. So when I first met you and was introduced to you, I'm like, oh yes, like legit, he's just does it for the trades. So like, what gets us, because even now, if I ask a question, it's like, oh wow, I've never had to deal with that. Like, how do you create content that is creative and and engaging for an audience that only wants you for demands, only needs you for an emergency, and other than that, they're not just going to go surf your website for funsies. So like, how do you still create content for that type of audience? And so like, listening to you talk about that has always been really super awesome.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Actually, the thing that's probably the best thing that happened to me was that I get to go after that demand service, because the only time I'm pulling somebody in is when they're actively looking for for HVAC or plumbing or whatever, but nobody in mind. So it's like the best case scenario. So, and the analytical nerd side of me kicks in of like, all right, well, if I can just focus on how to bring in a service lead, how to bring in an install lead, a drain cleaning lead, a water heater lead, we would run like, I'm talking, my wife and I started this, that started the company. And today there's a little over 100 of us, but still focused on the trades. But the values and the processes are very much the same. It's we just learned, we ran thousands and thousands of ads for a HVAC company to figure out how to pull in a service lead. So which ads to run at what point in time and which location in the United States of America, really in Canada at this point. Now we're in Australia. But it was, how can I pull in a service lead? Because listen, I understood on your end, like with Service Emperor, is window time is money too. Like, so I really started to understand your side of the business to know, what am I doing that's impacting the bottom line? And so if I could pull in, you needed 100 new service leads a month and 50 new install leads a month, that's what I would go after. That's what the team does today. We find a number and that's what we shoot for. I can just figure out now, what should my cost per lead be? Like, what, based on all the data we've got, what should my cost per lead be to know how to create a proposal? Like, this comes from years of doing the same thing over and over and over again, and only in these industries. And listen, like, I just had this conversation with a customer of mine today, just came on board. We don't always get it right. And I believe we're the best. We don't always get it right, because listen, Google is Google. Like, they throw stuff out, and like, even as figured out as we have it, sometimes like, we have months that are off. Like, you don't get it right 100% of the time.
Nope.
Neither do I. But I have to believe I get it right more than most.
Right. All right.
But I'm that guy, like you and I have some mutual friends too, and they're competitors of mine. I champion them just as much, and they ask me for help, and I give them help. So I'm not opposed to doing those things too. But everything that we do in here is data driven. Yes, there's a little bit of intuitiveness to it from being in the industry so long, but I believe people rely on us when technology and things advance. I am chasing those new things for my customers because I want to deliver the best results for them that I can. So sometimes, I don't have to learn the industries. I have to learn to chase the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So I completely spaced out, and we didn't even talk really about Rhino itself, and where you're at and your team and everything. Can you give us a little share about that?
Yeah, man, we blew right by that, didn't we?
We did.
So Rhino's, my headquarters is in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I am. We have another office over in Charlotte, which is where my man Tall Paul's at. And we started the company though in Indiana, like I was saying. And what's interesting about that is Indiana was kind of on this kick to grow technology. So they were giving out grants. And this is when, Vice President Pence was the governor of Indiana. So he gave us a sweet little grant in the technology space, air quotes, to hire people. And then he left, went to go be vice president.
Right.
So so we shifted everything out to Phoenix, and really this has kind of become home base for us. It'll always be home base for us. And everything's done out in here. Like people will hear, like, we've got 100 plus rhinos. They think I'm doing everything overseas. I do everything in house, and everything's in the United States of America. So I don't outsource anything to save money, because I don't believe it's the best product to put out there based on what I've experienced. So everybody's in house, man. We're one big happy family. We all bleed orange. But I'll tell you what's cool about it, and you've got to know this, is that culture is of the utmost importance to me. And we say Rhino family because we treat everybody exactly like that. You know me, man. I pray for my family. I pray for my employees and my customers and my partners every single morning.
Yeah, absolutely. That is amazing. So with that being said, y'all do PPC, SEO, like building websites and stuff, and then also LSA. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, social, chat.
So social. Okay, yep. I left social off.
That's where Gary Vee came in.
That's right. Yes, I completely spaced on that. Yeah. So you're constantly working with Gary Vee and everything with social. How has that experience helped and changed and transformed things for you?
Yeah, man. So it was cool because, excuse me, we had Gary on the podcast. Really what's good about having him on is his V factor, what we'll call it, is he's really great about thinking outside the box, but he's also super far ahead of in the social space. And he's really great with branding. So really where the value comes in from Gary is getting those things, but his team is phenomenal and they really helped us operationally. And here's a perfect example is whenever I first, met with Gary, we had dinner and we kind of talked about our plan of partnership. It was around building out the social media side of the business and video production side of the business for our home services customers, just to try. And I really wanted to roll out the best service I could.
Okay.
So he basically rolled into his COO, James Orsini, who basically is the one that takes all Gary's ideas and makes them happen.
Right.
And we got to work a lot with him. So we really structured ourselves in a great way. But when voice search was huge in the beginning, that's a perfect example where I was like, what do you know about voice search? So I don't know that I can get my customers to come up when somebody does a search on their phone. Because if you don't know, if you speak into your phone for a voice search, it delivers a different result versus if you type it in your phone.
Right.
So I was like, how can I win that game for my customers? And he was one able to kind of connect me with his voice search specialist, and I connected him with my team. And that's just another way we're trying to do it to stay ahead of the game in technology.
So is voice search still as big of a deal that we should be focusing on?
Absolutely, man. I for sure think about how often you talk to your phone. I mean, listen, you're going to be taking a shower one day, even though you don't have any hair to wash. Sorry, buddy. But then you'll be able to talk to your shower head and say, I need some more shampoo. And it's going to come to your door via Amazon. That's not unrealistic, right?
Yeah, I believe it 100%. Because I mean, right now, all you're going to do is say, I'm not going to say it because my phone and my iPad's going to go crazy, but hey, somebody, and it's go ahead and get this on order or add this to Amazon cart, whatever.
Yep.
So with that, like what can you give us a little behind the scenes of like a sneak preview of what you can do to help that voice search?
Yeah. So the key ingredient here is long tail keywords. Like think about what people questions ask on the phone. And then you want to write, say, a blog on your page that has that question and the answer attached to it. So content is still king. It is searching for that content. Certainly making sure that you're doing on your like GMB or Google Maps stuff too, whatever you want to call it, making sure you're utilizing the Q&A platform in there and filling it out with questions and trying to get that stuff.
So with that question and answer section of GMB, isn't that where somebody else would ask us a question and we answer it, or we go in there?
Nope, somebody else, but you can certainly influence those things
to
try and get the right questions asked, and answered in there. Because it will pick that stuff. That's just it's another piece of the puzzle. But really, if the one thing that you can impact directly is your own blog page on your site.
So SEO is still king, would you say? Or is it SEO dead?
No, man. SEO is like in here because we track everything separately. SEO, the expense, the cost per lead, and the revenue, because we can pull in Service Titan data or House Call Pro data straight into the dashboard. Is we can see which ones are successful. SEO is by far still king. Now, LSA has been great. For those who may not know, you might not even know, when Google launched what used to be called Google Home Services in the beginning, which is now the LSA program.
Mm-hmm.
We beta tested that for them. They flew into
Oh, I
my
didn't know
office
that.
in December of 2014, and we beta tested it for them through 2015.
Oh.
It's way different. So this is when I knew, and we now have a couple of those ex-schoolers that were on that team that work for Rhino. But
Get out of here. That's what's
do,
up.
man.
You ain't messing
So
around.
shout out to Wyatt. He probably ain't listening. But what's cool about that is it kind of gave us an idea of what that was going to look like. And so we had an idea that with the LSA program, it was super successful for a lot this year. And I'm so grateful to hear all the cool success stories from it. It's going to shift and change. Like even with the bidding piece changing, it has to. There's no way it would sustain. So this is where I feel like having been in this industry has been really helpful because I'm just chasing the technology. And that is part of what we chase is that. But 100% SEO, if you run a solid search engine optimization campaign, and I'm not talking like it's smoke and mirrors, you need to know like it's be more than just ranking. If you do that, it makes your cost per click on that pay-per-click campaign cheaper. So you can get more out of your pay-per-click budget.
How long was it take from like, say we had a fresh website to like being game-changing worthy?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, if you're in a small metro, which I'm talking 500,000 and under, a population and under, 3 months, you should be able to see some significant improvement in your your rankings.
That fast?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's an expectation we have internally here, is that we need to see improvement. You should see improvement month one. I don't know if it's going to be game changing, but within 3 months, you can do, your site will have been crawled, say at least 3 times, maybe 4. And by that point in time, you should have had enough, updates and things done that weren't so much it's spammy that you'll boost your rankings.
What happens if you had a trash site and then you're going in and fixing it?
Yeah, man. And that's where it's like, this is why I always say not everybody's a Rhino. A lot of times it's easier for us to scrap what they've got, regardless of how long they've had it. Use the same domain name, but build new, because then at least I know what I'm getting.
True.
And there's a lot of stuff too. And we've really cleaned it up more going into 2021 we try to, I don't have to guess on where to put what button and what call to action on a website to make it convert to a lead. Sometimes people are like, oh man, I just dropped $20,000 on the site. And I'm like, damn, I'm sorry.
Sucks.
Sucks. But at the end of the day, the only reason a website exists is to create business. That's its only job, is to convert traffic into leads. That's its only reason for existence, is to do that. So if it's not functioning right, it's like your CSR not functioning right.
Bam. Boom.
Bam. Bam.
So, okay. So how about this? You mentioned video, but you were talking with Gary, and that was a lot of social. This is a 2-part question, and that is short form content like TikTok and YouTube. How important is YouTube to SEO? Because if I'm not mistaken, you could create a video with transcribed, and it would show up in SEO search at the top. But I think that's gone away. And then can you build a TikTok page for a service business that actually would be worth the time of doing it?
So I love that you asked the TikTok question. It's come up a lot. Okay. And my social media team has grown significantly, and we're dabbling TikTok. But in order to do like a paid TikTok campaign, I think it's like a minimum of like $40,000 or $50,000. It's pretty expensive.
Oh wow!
But you can create a personal page, or use air quotes, and use it. And I have a friend of mine who owns a plumbing company in Oklahoma who's dabbling with it, and she's been getting business from it, which is really cool. So she sends it to me. I think there's something there, and I'm willing to go down, especially because moms of TikTok exist, and those are great customers. So anyhow, I think that's something that is going to evolve into something more, and I'm interested to see how it goes. But I want to talk about video. I mean, I think you know this, but Google owns YouTube. So clearly there's value in having YouTube videos. I'm a huge fan of video. Video creates emotion. It needs to be short form, like you had said.
Okay, so when you say that, so I'm sorry for interrupting you, but somebody listening might not understand exactly what I'm saying, what you just said there, and I want to kind of explain it. So you said short form, like is short form a certain time period, and if it's longer than short form, is that bad?
So I don't think it's bad, Tersh. I just think that you have to be able to capture somebody's attention, right? So people get distracted quickly. So it's got to be, if you have a 5-minute video, it's like, why are you going to be able to really hold them for 5 minutes? I think the answer is no. That being said, you can have that video transcribed. So there's all that content in it, throw it into a blog or whatever, throw it into a testimonials page, and it adds value to your site.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for like, say, SEO purposes. If it's straight up like, can I set the hook on the consumer, the homeowner, and get them to actually call me type of video, 60, 90 seconds max is all you need. Do not forget to close caption it. Do not forget to close caption it. That is extremely important. We have 2 deaf employees at Rhino, which forced us into doing closed captions, say 6 years ago.
Wow.
That's huge to close caption it, because a lot of times people might be at work and they can't hear your video, but they can use that closed caption, right? Because it's not going to distract anybody else when they're watching videos.
Is there any SEO value to closed caption, or it's just that conversion?
So again, I'm glad you asked that question. Nowhere will you read that it is. I believe it is. Okay. I believe it is. So, I mean, really you can have, you can have the entire video transcribed anyhow. So that way all the content is in the post somewhere, but I believe it does. Yes.
So whenever you close caption, do you have to transcribe it and then put it back in order for the closed caption to work? Or can you just click a button and says closed caption and it turns it on?
You can click a button, but it's not always accurate. So you have to like go back through it and make sure it matches. It does miss a lot. So, and because some people can hire like a third party to come in and do it for them. And like, we do it in house. I mean, but I don't just click the button because it's never accurate.
Well, with a name like mine and the way it's spelled, it always turns to church. Like people are going to church. Yeah.
Church.
And so, I'd have to get them transcribed. Would you recommend a site for anybody that wants to try this out on their own, like for transcribing?
I don't know if I have a site to recommend. I'm probably not the right person to ask that question.
I get it totally. Yeah, y'all do it in house. I'll research that too, because the one that we use, it's a great one. But I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head. But with that being said, with that being said, whenever you put that, when you do transcribe it and you put it on your site, like, it's called Sonics, Sonix is, by the way.
Got it.
But when you do that, do you have to create into it? Like, do you leave it? All right, Tersh said this, Chris said this, Tersh said this, Chris said this. Like, is that okay? Or do we need to actually like break it down, turn it into a blog post, and which is a better results either way?
No, I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you need to say Tersh says, Chris says. I think people can differentiate because it shows the human being that's talking when the closed caption's on. Unless you're
I'm sorry. If you create a blog post and like on your website from that.
Oh, so we don't use it that way. So here's a perfect example that I know you're talking about, like even with our podcast.
Yeah.
We don't just have it transcribed. It's actually written by Zach, who's on my podcast production team, and he listens to podcasts and then just kind of almost shorthands it, if you will. Like, but he's not. So he'll take me, because otherwise that'd be a ton of content, right? A ton.
Yeah.
So, but then he'll write, like, if we make any references, he'll tag it, do an alt tag to it, to or a anchor text to it to connect. I talked about Tersh and Service Emperor, and now I connected Service Emperor link to go to Service Emperor's site. But it's more like, I would say it's shorthand. So kind of like our call listening and reporting team listens to every call that comes through every website for customers.
Yeah.
They don't write the entire thing out. They shorthand it. So that way when we give it to you, the customer, this CSR took the call, it was an SEO call. It was a customer calling in. They weren't a past customer, blah, blah, blah. It gets like a shorthand of the information. It's enough of the info to get the point across, but not over the top content.
Yeah. Cool, man. We have so much stuff here, and I could talk to you for days. I mean, literally we could, but, Scott Oberg in the live chat on Facebook, he's banking on that 3 months that you talked about, because he's a client of Rhino.
Scott, he's part of the Rhino family, man. What's up, brother?
Yeah, man, absolutely cool. But so thank you again so much for coming on multiple shows today with me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Man, you and me have become good friends. I think it's because both of our hearts in the right places, and it makes it easy for us to to connect, and because it's all genuine.
Absolutely. Thanks again. And thank you for any of the listeners and watchers of this episode. And if you have any questions at all, don't forget, it's rhinoss.com to reach out to the team at Rhino and to learn more about Rhino. They're on all the social media platforms. Have you by chance done a TikTok, or have you created a TikTok channel?
So no, but it's coming. But
Okay.
it's coming. It's coming.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So check out everybody's stuff. I have a TikTok, but it's boring stuff. So it'll be cool one day. I'll try and get on Chris's level. But,
The talk tick.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Well, thank you again for watching this episode or listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery Podcast. It's a podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. So with that being said, until we talk again next week or tomorrow, you have a wonderful day and be safe out there.